So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Real Estate Success Show. We are definitely in for a treat today. This young lady is a powerhouse in the industry for since 1999. Got started when she was 21. Has had over 10,000 transactions since coming into the industry. Very hard for most people to even fathom, but got an incredible story. Was running her own brokerage. Just can't wait for you guys to hear what all has happened to Stephanie. So, we will be right back here in just a minute to start the show. Give us just a second. So hello, and welcome, Stephanie. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, Sean. Thank you for having me on. You
You
are
bet.
amazing.
You obviously have, ever since even coming on board our company, obviously waves have taken place, and there's a lot of folks who talk about you. So I feel honored to spend a few minutes with you. So thank you for your time. So why don't we just to start off for anybody and everybody who might be viewing this at some point now or in the future, tell us a little bit about Stephanie. If you want to talk a little bit about you, maybe your family, and what was it that prompted you to get into real estate at such an early age?
I'll start there because that came before family. It came before everything that's going on right now. But I was in college and political science major. My path was to go to law school, not to practice law, but to be a lobbyist. I love to argue. I like to debate. I like to prove my point, right? I love to
Yeah.
negotiate. And that's what lobbying is. And so I got involved in this project where I was in college about dry counties versus wet counties, right? So dry county, no alcohol sale, wet county, alcohol sales. And what does that mean, right? And so I got involved in some political campaigning and different things like that, seeing how that was changing counties inside of Kentucky. And then I saw how industry would explode, how stores wanted to come, chain restaurants, shopping malls, and how the landscape completely changed, and it was all around real estate. And I
Hmm.
thought, if I can put together these types of deals and bring people in, businesses into a new market, fresh canvas to do what they want to do, which spawns off on everything else, housing, multifamily, hotels, you name it,
Yeah.
why not get my real estate license? So that's what I did. I got my real estate license, graduated college, had my son, single mom. So got into this brand new industry, moved back to Louisville, Kentucky, and literally said, okay, how am I going to put this to work? What am I going to do? I really love the whole commercial aspect of real estate. But the problem was, Sean, is every commercial brokerage I walked into looked at me. They saw my age. I'm not going to say whether they saw that I was a female or not. I'm not going to go there, but they all told me no. And I was like, wait a minute, I've got a plan. This is how I'm going to do it. I know development. I know how to bring business in. And everyone told me no. And from that moment forward, well, first I had to find a broker to hang my license with so I could even go to work. And I went to a very small independent brokerage because I happened to go to high school with his two daughters. I picked up the phone, called him, said, hey, is your dad still in business? Would he take me? Sure, give him a call. So I called him up. He took me. He said, I can't help you, but you can hang your license here. And 6 months later, I'm doing some large transactions, some industrial land development. And I realized I need my own company. If no one's going to accept me in a commercial brokerage, I want to build my own brokerage. And so I started my first real estate company December of 1999 at 21 years of age. Actually, by then I was 22.
Wow. And so did you open up that brokerage with the idea of, were you planning on building and attracting agents, or did that almost just happen organically as you became more successful?
It kind of happened organically because one, I thought, okay, I'm a 22-year-old. I can't give people advice. I don't even have anybody giving me advice. But
Okay.
as I started to land business, because I was fearless, right? I was relentless. I had to make it work. I had to make it work because all those people that told me, no, it's never going to work for you. You need to go figure out how to sell a house or so. You need to go a different path. I needed to make it work, not only to pay the bills and to feed my son, but I needed to make it work to prove all of them wrong. And so that's the fire that ignited in my belly, which still is there today. And I made it work. I landed all kinds of business, whether it was with industrial developers, office developers, industrial parks, but even single family luxury developments, and got into that niche and just started landing a lot of business. People took notice that we're in the real estate industry. And then they would reach out and say, look, I want to work with you. I want to learn how you pulled this off. And so I said, come on. And so that's how I built my real estate company, not with the intention of having agents, but with the fact of inspiring others to want to learn that way of doing business.
And so as you began to build that brokerage, was it a combination of residential agents and commercial, or who?
Absolutely. It
Okay.
was. It was. We're in Louisville, Kentucky. I had to really be that generalist, because come on, Sean, we both know that when you're starting out in a real estate career, you got to take kind of what you can get and land. So I had some really great big transactions that were on that commercial realm, doing retail leasing, representing big box chains, things of that nature. But also because I fell into the land development aspect, a lot of these developers were buying them to, build condos or to build single family luxury. So we wanted to be able to service that business as well. And glad that I did, because later on in life, I've gotten into that business myself. But I grew that company. In 2003, I was one of top 30 under 30 years of age agents in the country. That was, I think it was on my wall up here. I think that was 2003. I have to look at it. I can't even remember. And then that ignited even more business for myself, more people taking notice. It almost solidified and gave me that legitimacy for other people in my local market to take notice. But what I did right out of the gate by starting that company was I focused on building my brand, so that was where the value was. My brand, and having that brand recognition, that's where the value went. And as time grew, went on, every franchise under the sun was wanting to, have me become one of them.
Yeah.
I fell into that in 2004. I actually became a franchise owner.
Ah,
I was one of the first to be a part of, with a group of others. We had partners. There was 5 of us that were partners, but we launched one of the very first franchise concepts of a brand I'm not going to say the name of.
okay.
And, I was sold on this ability to, now you're not just going to be local, you're going to be affiliated with this national company, and you're going to have support, and you're going to have systems and tools that you haven't had time to build on your own.
Hmm.
And instead of having 48 agents, you're going to, explode. And it all sounded great. And I was 26 years old. So it really, really sounded great. So I did it. So Gilezan became this other franchise brand, and I was a franchise owner.
Okay.
And then I soon realized it didn't do anything for me. But what it did do was take away my brand. It
Ah,
erased what I had built. But then
okay.
it also introduced me into the fact that just because you affiliate with a franchise, national or global brand, doesn't mean you've got the help, doesn't mean you've got the assistance. It's still right here. All the, all
Mhm.
the, every decision, all the liability, everything was still resting on my shoulders. And now I had to build somebody else's brand, because the franchise is only as strong as that independent owner or broker. And so at 30 years of age, I sold it and went back to being independent.
Wow. Very okay. I didn't know that part of the story. Okay. So you went right back into your own independent brokerage.
Yeah.
Um, and at that time, I don't, being that you are such a powerhouse, did most of your agents come with you to the franchise? When you left, came right back with you? Did they stay with Stephanie?
So yes, pretty much. A lot of loyal people. I've had agents that are here, now at EXP that had started with me back in 2003, in 2006, and so they have continued, to follow that. There's been a handful that have retired. At one time, Sean, I was the broker owner of a brokerage where my youngest agent was 47 years old, and I was in my early 20s. Right, so some of them have retired since then, still raving fans, still great friends, but hey, they've been able to retire and move on to doing other things,
Yeah.
and so forth. But yeah, absolutely. People follow, those influencers, but those that actually take the time to put the time and effort into them. And that's what I always did for my agents. And that's what I still do today, even though I'm not the broker owner. I'm still an owner of this company, and we put time and we invest into people's success.
Yeah. So before we jump into you coming over here, partnering and enrolling your brokerage in, however we want to state that, let's talk a little bit about that brokerage, because I want broker owners who may be looking at this to understand. So now you go back, begin to build your brand again. Take us along that journey up to the point before you were contacted to look at EXP. Did you, because it was, if I'm not mistaken, was it around 30 agents that you built it to?
Absolutely, on purpose. So 2008, let's say that first. So I sell my franchise. I sell out of it. It still exists.
Okay.
It's good. I sell out of it February 14th of 2008. I am sold out of it. I'm back to owning Gilezan Realty, independent brokerage, very small. On purpose, it was very small. And the biggest reason why is because 30 years old, I was extremely tired. And I know that sounds weird, but it was I did a lot in 10 years. I did so much in 10 years. And so it was that moment that I just needed to step back and say, okay, I don't need to have a brokerage of 221 agents that need me 24/7. I just want to pause, and I want people who come to me that want to make a living. All right. So you got to think what happened in 2008. Economic downturn beyond belief, right? I
Yep.
mean, we're in that recession. And so I took people, agents that knew that a pivot in the market was going to happen and that they were willing to do what it took. And so I said, look, guys, we're going to pivot. We're going to learn a different business right now. We are going to make sure that we see this economy as our opportunity to all build extreme wealth. And we're going to do that by mastering the short sale. And so we went from a little bit of business because look, the market was kind of on pause, right? I said, we're going to master the short sales, and y'all are going to go out and do 300 and 400 closings in the next 6 months. This is how we're going to go get the business, and we're going to negotiate those liens, and we're going to get them to the closing table. So we were representing the banks were actually referring business to us because we mastered how to get through the negotiation of it. While all that's happening, I become an asset liquidator for some of the larger banks around the Midwest region. And so as developers and businesses just left, like totally abandoned their projects, I master how do we sell these? How do we get the most return to the banks? So any bank that had a 44% bad asset ranking on the Wall Street Journal, that's who I called that day. Right? Because if they're at 44% on bad asset loans on their ledger, that means that president of that bank's going to lose his or her job if they don't do something. So
Yeah.
my phone call that day would be, hey, Mr. Wade, I'm so sorry to see that you're on the list of having 44% of your bank in bad asset mode, but here's what we're going to do. One, I want to save your job. Number two, this is how I'm going to do it. Number three, this is all we need to do. And I would land business, where it would be 15 developments or projects from this bank, 20 from this bank. And then I got Bank of America as a client, and I was doing it in 4 different states. And so we're doing this, and Gilezan Realty was small, okay, on purpose. But we had 32 agents. We were in the top 10 of all the real estate companies in the state of Kentucky on production, not agent count.
Yeah.
But we were up there in the volume production of closing volume that companies that had 200 agents, 300 agents, and 400 agents had. And that's how we did it. We went into a different business that the average brokers and agents weren't thinking about. And so a lot of people in my market will say, oh my God, Stephanie Gilezan, the short sale queen. And it's because we mastered that process. But we also ended up really creating massive raving fans. And so that's why I have had so many different pivots in my career, because I go where the opportunity is.
Yeah. And we're kind of going back into that venue right now, right? Short sales over the next 6 months to a year could start to really happen. So that's great that you got that skill set. So, okay, I'm fascinated now. So you're running this extremely profitable brokerage. Like you said, maybe 1/5, 1/6, 1/8 of even the amount of agents that other brokerages in Kentucky had, yet you were extremely profitable. Then all of a sudden you receive a call one day. And I got to ask this question because I'm assuming you weren't looking for anything, right? I mean, you were
No.
running, it sounds like from what I heard, all the different rumors, it was extremely profitable. Everybody was blown away when you rolled yourself into EXP. So let's talk about that for a minute, because there's brokers who may be looking at this that don't have near the net profit you had, don't have near as many successful agents and so forth. What was it that grabbed your attention? And let's kind of talk about that for a few minutes, because this is very fascinating for me, because I'm talking to several brokerages today and I know they don't have near the numbers that you have. So what was it that grabbed your attention, and just kind of walk us through that? What made you move over?
Well, when you own your company, you are that liable party. You have to be the innovator, you have to be the creator, you have to be, I mean, you're married to it, it's your business. My biggest fear was that I was never going to be able to step out of that business because it was so reliable onto me, right? There
Right.
wasn't anybody I could hand it to. My kids were very young, right? And then I looked at my agents who were so loyal to me over the course of several years, and some of them a couple decades. And, I'm not doing anything special for them, right? I'm keeping them there because we've built this amazing relationship. But if I ever sold out one day, they probably wouldn't stay there because they were there to be with me.
Yeah.
And so, what could I do if I wanted to have an exit plan in 5 years from that day? What could I do? And so, I had offers on the table from other companies wanting to buy my company, but with that came, they wanted me to stay in that business, running it under their brand for a certain amount of time, so that nothing was upset and people didn't leave and the business stayed. But again, I'd already experienced that, already had that drama and just ridiculousness that I had done, a decade, before that.
Yeah.
So what I was looking for was a way to, I had such great brand recognition. I had a ton of business. I didn't need to do anything, but I'm also one of these people that I'm an opportunist. When I see an opportunity, I want to see it through. Regardless of if I make the decision, I will always investigate everything, because if we don't walk through the door, we never know what's on the other side of it. And
True.
as I started looking at it, I really took myself out of the equation. And I said, if I can better these agents with an opportunity, and it's better for them, then ultimately it's going to end up being better for me. Okay. Because we all have to realize traditional real estate brokerage models, they're going away. So how was I going to pivot my independent brokerage to not be so traditional anymore? Not going to happen, right? What we're paying in tools, and we had great tools, and I provided, great things to my agent. But the truth of the matter is I didn't have any buying power, right?
Yeah.
Those costs were continuing to rise. Was I going to go to my agents that were so loyal to me and say, look, I need more in split in order for me to still give you this? Who wants to make those kinds of decisions?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I wanted to do was show them an opportunity for them to better themselves, because if it bettered them, then it was 100% going to better me. And here's how. They each were able to step into EXP and immediately have something that I was never willing to give them. And one, that was ownership immediately. Two, they now had the ability, to sit in the same seat that I sat in for years, being the broker owner, collecting overrides off of them. Now they had that ability because of the revenue share. But more importantly, they got to keep a whole lot more of their money on the commission split and having that cap, because that was something as a traditional broker, even if I wanted to, you couldn't sustain yourself. It wasn't a model that was ever going to continue to grow and live. That would just be, because I've talked to broker owners, Sean, and they go, oh no, I give my agents a $15,000 cap or a $9,000 cap. I go, well, then you're never going to retire, and shame on you, because all you're doing right now is becoming the bank. It's the truth. One day they will have to sell so much just to keep their name on that office, and just move it aside, guys. Move it aside. Don't worry about the name on the building. My name's still on my building out here. It just happens to be brokered by EXP, right?
Exactly.
So it benefited my agents, which made them thrilled and happy and gracious and thankful that I would want them to see this and make the decision before I even processed it. Okay.
So may I ask this right now, so again, if you're talking to a brokerage and a broker is looking at this right now, and I don't know what your splits were with your agents, if they were on different splits, if it was more, some of them are on a transaction fee only, what do you say to some of those brokers who look at it and go, yeah, but I can look at the model right now and see just apples to apples that some of these agents are not going to make the same amount of money? How would you speak to that?
Well, first off, they're going to make more money. They're going to make more money. And here's why. Because as independent broker owners or as independent or franchise owners,
okay,
you are never going to provide the level of training and education that they get access to at EXP. And here's the thing, Sean, I'm good. I'm good at what I do. But I suck as a trainer. I do. I don't have the patience for it. And so one of the ways I was holding my agents back was because I couldn't give that to them, right? I could have perfected being the perfect trainer, but then that took me away from doing what I love, which is real estate production, right?
Yeah.
I was that producing broker because I loved it. I wanted to keep building my business. And so I was holding my own agents back by not letting them have exposure to some of the best training I've ever witnessed. Look, here's the thing. I owned a franchise, okay? I thought by owning that franchise, I was going to get all that training, all this awesome stuff. Yeah, we got some binders with some scripts in it. But then I had to find the people in the office willing to train and do all that. And guess what? They said, you're nuts, Stephanie. I'm not going to teach the people in my office to do what I do because I'm not breeding my own competition. And then I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I got to do it all, right? So that's what happens. And so I like this model because I have learned so much from going into EXP World and sitting in these classes where I can listen to people in California or Canada or Portugal or anywhere where they are sharing with us the best practices in some of the best advertising and social media, anything that gets to land business. And then you look at like KV Core and then EXP Commercial is a whole nother ball game. But you look at the technology tools. Here's the deal, you all. As an independent or a franchise owner, you don't have the multi-billion-dollar buying power that a publicly traded company with no debt has. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And so they do get access to better tools. And that's why they make more money. That's why they make more money. The referrals that are coming in throughout this company every single day, my team's received $330 million worth of referrals since January 1st. Did you hear me?
Repeat that one more time. That's pretty crazy.
$330 million worth of referrals since January 1st.
Wow. And so you were talking a little bit about branding as well. So as this now catapulted your brand,
100%.
Your brand, I sense rolling yourself now into EXP, because that seems to be also a huge question that a lot of brokers have.
100%. So now, Gilezan Realty, very well known in Louisville, Kentucky, known in surrounding counties. Hell, let's just say it was known in Kentucky, very known in Kentucky. Now we're known throughout this entire country. We have expanded our team. We're not just in Louisville, Kentucky. There's about 5 of us here in Louisville, Kentucky. I have team members that are part of EXP and Gilezan Global that are in Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Texas, Florida, Indiana, Ohio. We're scattered throughout. We are now taking that same concept of what we did before, Sean, and building massive listing volumes, but we're doing it in 27 states currently, and we're in 4 countries. Right now, today, we have currently listed $673 million in volume. I don't know if we're going to get there, but our team goal is to close $1 billion in the next 12 months. We're on track to do so. I couldn't do that in my market of Louisville, Kentucky, because let's look at it. Let's look at the demographics, right?
Yeah.
You just look at the demographics. And so what it has done for me is taken Gilezan from being so locally recognized to now globally recognized. And to have that ability to do that, I couldn't do that at any other global company or even national company. And I know people are on here listening, oh, well, KW's everywhere, Remax is everywhere. You know what? That brand is everywhere, but it's made up of independently owned and operated offices that aren't on the same page. They just aren't. Yeah. And you can't do business with 8 or 9 different offices. You want to do business with one office. It just so happens EXP, whether it's realty or commercial, is one office across the globe. That's the difference.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's go back for a minute to the referrals. So the amount of millions and millions, you said over 300 million that your team, what would you mention? So break that down a little bit more right now for people looking at this, even if it's an agent looking or a brokerage who's looking to roll themselves in. Talk about how that has happened and what it's really done for each and every one of your agents.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I challenge everyone on, and I don't care what company you're with at this moment, because this is where I want you to get to thinking. Opportunity, making money. How do you do it? My team, we specialize in a lot of different spaces. And one I'm going to tell you about is the QSR space, the quick service restaurant space. We do it very well. We've got a lot of corporate accounts with Church's Chickens, Hardee's, Carl's Jr.'s, Focus Brands, you name it, to where, these baby boomers that are looking to exit their fast food chains or whatever, they want to retire. We specialize in selling those. Okay. And so what I do is any chance I get, I say to our family at EXP Realty, I say it to whomever out there, listen, you might be slow in your residential business right now. So pick up the phone today and call back all your past clients and have a different conversation. I want you to pick up the phone and say, hey, Bill, I know that you own businesses. Do you have any commercial needs right now? Or are you looking to expand? Or you ask the question, because this is a question that residential agents don't think of. You all think about, hey, can I give you a free market analysis on your home? Or, can I talk to you about, do you want to buy a rental property? Or when are you looking to move or downsize or whatever? Have the business conversation, because majority of your clients have businesses and have commercial real estate or want to get into that space. Either way, start asking those questions, because look, making money, making a phone call and getting a 25% referral fee for making a phone call costs you nothing. It's just a little bit of time. And so we educate those in the space to let's get you $100,000 on a phone call. Let's get in a referral fee, right? Because these are big deals. And so that's what we want people to think about. We want real estate agents in the residential space to think a little bit differently and take advantage of those opportunities. You could be making an extra $250,000 this year in gross commission income on referrals alone if you just ask questions to your already existing clients.
That was great information. So your brokerage, you roll yourself in, and this has been how long ago? When did you?
4 years and 9 months ago, February 5th of 2018 is when I rolled the brokerage into EXP Realty.
Okay. And you had about 30 agents. So tell everyone today, what does it look like now for Gilezan and your team that's now starting to spread across the country? You mind sharing how many agents do you currently now override?
Okay, so I used to make splits off of 30 agents, and we'll say a couple of those did maybe 2 or 3 deals a year because they were older, right? So now I have over 700 that
Okay.
I get paid on every single month. And it doesn't just rely on the Louisville, Kentucky market. I am now overriding on agents across the entire United States and about 7 different countries right now. So it's an amazing opportunity when you get to wake up, log on to my EXP and see that you just made a commission in Mexico, or see that you just made a commission in Brazil, right? I mean, it's like, wow, this is amazing. And so that's what I love about this model is that, let's be honest, Sean, I did the franchise thing. I was part of that, that brokerage. We grew to over 200 agents. I did not make the kind of money owning that 200 agent office that I do on revenue share with EXP.
Yeah.
With Gilezan Realty, I made a lot of money on splits and overrides with the agents. But here's the thing: I had all the liability, I had all the overhead, I had all the risk, I had no exit plan. Stephanie Gilezan was the broker owner and the business. I couldn't walk away from it. I could sell it for a chunk of change one day and then become immersed into somebody else's brand, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to take my brand and expand it. I love the fact that no matter what happens to me today, tomorrow, or next week, that I have created revenue income every single month, that no matter if I'm in this world or not, my kids still will maintain the same level of the rate at which we live. And come on, y'all, we all spoil our kids, right? We do. We give them great things, and my kids won't suffer because we've built this revenue share.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the day that I rolled my brokerage in, I kept thinking about, okay, I'm not going to have to worry about the training. I'm going to better my lives of my agents. They're going to have an opportunity to sit in a seat that I've always sat in without the overhead and the liability. But what I didn't take into consideration the day I made the decision was how much of a pay raise I was going to get by getting rid of all of that overhead. Sean, I received $187,000 in just wiped it off the books because I didn't have to foot those bills any longer, and as that broker owner, we still got to pay for all that, whether the agents sell or not.
Okay. So, and I want everybody to know as I'm asking these questions, I don't know the response to some of them. So let me ask this. So you obviously had a brick and mortar. You're running that office for 30 something agents. Did you immediately get rid of the brick and mortar? I don't even have any idea what has happened to that. So explain that just a little bit. And how did your agents take to that?
So I have a brick and mortar. I'm also a developer. I own a building company, but I have a brick and mortar because, I need it. I need it for my businesses and so forth. And I don't want, things coming to the personal house. So I've kept my brick and mortar. Okay. My agents love the fact, look, my agents never came into the office. Okay. When it was Gilezan Realty, it was the office manager, my administrative assistant, and me in the office. We only saw agents when they were dropping off, commission checks and wanting to pick up the commission check that we wrote them back. Okay. That's the only time we saw the agents. So nothing changed for the agents, except it got easier. They didn't have to drive to the office to drop off a check anymore. They just uploaded it into their SkySlope system. So they got, gas money back. Yeah. So nothing changed for them. And then what I was able to do with my office space is if anyone wanted that place away from home that they could come to and call their office, I lease them a desk, so I make some added income off of it. I don't have to do that, but I do that because some of them, want that ability. But, I'm one of these people, like I said, I'm a developer. I have contractors that are coming in and out. And so, I kept my brick and mortar for that reason.
Do you mind sharing? I'm assuming you have some of the agents that came over with you. Stories right now. Are there a handful of agents that have come to you and went, "Oh my gosh, Stephanie, this has been truly amazing"? Are there any stories of this? Some of those.
My favorite, and I've got a bunch of them. Okay, I've got a bunch of these stories, and you'll have to have them on and let them tell their story as well. But I'm gonna call out Danny Pierce right now. Danny Pierce in Louisville, Kentucky. He joined Gilezan Realty, brand new to the industry. He was with us about 2 years, I believe it was, before we made the EXP merger, or, switch over, bringing the brokerage over. And he always had a job. He always had to have that job and real estate. And I watched this guy grow into this industry and doing well. And then finally, he was able to, right before we made the switch to EXP Realty, he was finally able to quit the day job and focus on real estate. Okay. So he got to that level within 2 year time.
Okay.
I think it was 18 months after we joined EXP Realty, I get a text for him one day. And he said, Stephanie, I just want to reach out and say, one, thank you for all your guidance, being there for me, but also thank you so much for allowing this opportunity for us all to become owners of this amazing brokerage that we've affiliated with. Because not only have I made twice as much money as I was, but he iconed, which meant he got all his cap back in stock.
Yep.
And then what he was able to do, he ended up paying off his house. So here's a guy that was, right as we were making the switch, he had just quit his day job, right? He could just do enough in real estate, so he didn't need that day job any longer. But 18 months later, he's paid off his house, he's debt-free, and he's making money just like I did. But Sean, here's the thing. Like, every day we always say this. Why wasn't EXP Realty around in 1999? Darn it, because I wouldn't have had to have gone through that whole thing. But what I love about that story is that, yeah, I got into the industry in 1999, owned and struggled and built a business and took the risk, had the liability, had those sleepless nights, for 18 years. And that guy in 2 years, like 3.5 years, is making money hand over fist and debt free. I love that story.
Yeah. Entirely incredible. And I want to share with anybody who's watching how fortunate and blessed I am. Just to give you an idea, we won't go into the detail, but the structure of being able to grow an international business. So this powerhouse you're hearing from right now, it ends up appearing in my organization, and I'm everything she's talking about. Please understand, I'm overriding that. I did not know Stephanie at all, but I knew someone who knew someone, and eventually this young lady appeared. What can happen over here can be so life-changing. That story you just told, Stephanie, same with you. I've got dozens and dozens, and we have another one here also locally who was able to, in 2.5 years, he was a bigger producer, 20 million plus, but when we were starting to really go up right after we went public and the stock took off, same thing. He cashed out 1,000 shares. His stock value in 2.5 years was 1.2 million. Cashed out 1,000 shares, paid his house, cars. We got some of the same stories. So anyway, I want everybody to know the way things are structured here, you owe it to yourself to truly look deep, not just see the value of the model, understand it, and what could it really do for you and your agent. So one last thing I think I'd want to know is, so if you're sitting down with a broker today, you're talking to a broker and they've got 50 agents, 100 agents, 200 agents. If you were to give them on just a high level conversation on a phone call, what might that conversation sound like? What information would you share with them in a short amount of time to hopefully get them to go, well, let me put my brakes on and let me take a serious look at this? What are just some of the things? I know you've obviously talked about it, but let's put that into a very brief 2-3 minutes. How would that dialogue go from Stephanie to a broker?
Well, I think, just picking up the phone, one, I would want to have an honest conversation about pain points, right? Because as that former broker owner, I'm going to understand their pain points. There's not one broker owner that I've come in contact with that doesn't share the same pain points that I felt back when I was in that seat. And so I want to share that with them. First off, I want to go, what's your 5-year plan? What do you see 5 years for yourself? What do you have to continue to do with your existing business to stay relevant 5 years from now? What is your biggest fear that in the next 5 years, because we all have them when it relates to business. And so really hone in on those, because the truth is EXP is doing what that broker owner is doing now without the overhead, without the liability, without being the innovator, without being the bank, and without having to stay in the business 24/7. That's the truth.
Yeah.
You get to go back to picking the hours you want to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're also not obviously limited now to their local market. And this thing
That's
can go
right.
international. So maybe one last question, and we will wrap this up for everybody. Appreciate anyone who has spent a few minutes with us. I sometimes get the feedback, whether I'm talking to a broker or an agent, they're worried about the support. How quickly can I talk to my broker and so forth? Like right now, I'm friends with my broker and they're the main reason I'm staying here and all that. Kind of speak to that for a minute. What is it like now for you, for your team of agents, and how quickly they can get support from the brokers here?
Well, that's the thing. It's not just one person that you rely on. I mean, EXP has over 2,600 staff people working all the different time zones so that we have choices to go to. All states have multiple brokers, not just one, right?
Yeah.
You've got administrative support coordinators, you've got transaction coordinators, you've got accounting, you've got every major department. When I owned my own brokerage, it was me and an office manager and my admin. If we all three got sick, guess what? Everybody was SOL, right? I mean, that was what happened. Or it was me having the flu, still answering the phone, trying to negotiate on their behalf. But here at EXP, that's the deal. And because they're all housed in our virtual office space, our metaverse, there's not a time that you don't log in and just you have somebody there to handle, fix, help, be available, call the hotline. There's a million ways to get a hold of people. It's not just calling and waiting for them to return that voicemail. There's a million ways to get a hold of people. And to have that tech support, Sean, I mean, I've used that twice this week. I mean, when my agents had tech issues at Gilezan Realty, we didn't have a tech person on staff. I had to call a guy who had to come to the office, and 3 or 4 days later, he showed up. Right now, we're in real time. If we've got an issue, we walk in, we get it fixed. EXP understands that we make money on being fast and great at what we do. So they have to return that. And, I spent some time on the staff side, and that's what this is all about. Agent-owned company, agent-ran company. The staff are there to serve us and to make sure that we're the best at what we do. And they all have that mentality.
Love it. So here's my last question. Looking out, because I know you at one time, obviously, you were really even involved on the corporate side with the XP.
Yeah.
I know you're back right now out in the field. Looking out 3 to 5 years, and we happened to have an interview, FYI, this morning with Michael Valdez, was phenomenal. But speak now from whatever, because you've got a lot of knowledge upstairs in that head of yours and been in this industry now for 23 years. Looking out over 3 to 5 years, going out, where you see EXP going compared to the traditional brokerages, whether or not they're a small independent or franchises, kind of give us one last vision of what does that look like for Stephanie?
For me,
I'm sorry, not you. For a broker that's might be looking at this, or agents that are looking out 5 years on what the industry may look like. No one has a crystal ball, but just we're curious on your opinion.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, slowly but surely, will traditional brokerages ever stay around? Yes, for those that are too stubborn to just admit that they're not going to stay relevant and make money, right? I mean, that's the truth. There will always be traditional brokerages, and that's fine, but they're not going to be what's going to elevate them into the multi-million-dollar systems, right? Of worth, of net worth. I think that, taking this opportunity with EXP, what are we, 85,000 agents right now?
Just hit it.
There's
85,000.
85,000 agents. There's 2 million agents in the United States alone. We've expanded. Now we're in 25 countries. We're going to continue to expand. We're the innovators in this industry. This is an opportunity for those to go ahead and look at what that merger is. Start thinking about, if it's not what's happening in the next 5 years, look out for the next 10 years. Wouldn't you rather go ahead, take a look at this and start building your business now? See, Sean, I will never put myself, and this happens every single day. I speak to an agent, whether they're in Louisville or whether they're in Houston, Texas, that they've always backed themselves into the corner. They've only learned what they know, and they don't know how to expand past that. I will always make sure that I see that opportunity. And what I see right now is the opportunity for those that are smart And
Yep.
those that have the wherewithal and those that are affiliated with the right brokerages that can that we can expand with to get on that train and take it to the extreme. I will never be married to just one market again, because I want to make sure that no matter what we're going through in this economic times or turbulent times or whatever the case might be, is that I'm making money somewhere. And I'm not going to cut myself off to that and just be married to my one market ever again.
I love it. 'Cause I explain to people, to me, we're building a recession-proof business. No
That's
longer
right.
localized in your market, no longer just the US. Now it's going international. And to think that we can set ourselves up, God forbid something's going real negative, kind of like it is right now in the United States, it might be not happening like that in the other countries, and we can still benefit from it. So it's really recession-proofed our business. So, Stephanie, first of all, let me say to everybody out there, you see her name up there. You can look her up online. If you want to reach out to her, find out more about what's going on, please do. Same with me. Feel free to reach out to us. Not any kind of a hard sell. We'll do everything we can to really, truly break this model down, do an apples comparison. We can get our corporate involved. If you're a brokerage and really want to have your numbers truly broken down, we will do all that for you. So, Stephanie, thank you. Thank you. We've been with me for 45 minutes. We sincerely appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy, successful lady. So thank you. Thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you at the event coming up. So thank everybody out there for checking this out, and we'll be back with you on the next Sturrock Show. Hold on just a minute.